So this is something we all can do. And it's something that is important for all of us to do. It's even important, it was something important enough for Jesus to do. And for that story to make it into all three of our synoptic gospels. The story of where Jesus encounters a woman and asks for her daughter to be healed. And, we think Jesus is always Mr. Nice Guy, always the one that's, of course, especially the outsider, especially a woman, especially someone touchable, of course Jesus would heal them. But what does Jesus say to this woman? It is not good I'm only here to feed bread to the children of Israel, to the children, and there's never enough for and not give it to the dogs. It's a very weird statement that Jesus says, right? And we know that this woman is Syrophoenician. In some story versions, she's Canaanite. She's always some kind of a Gentile. And if we know something about the biblical world, Jesus was Jewish and Israelite, and Israelites were not to have anything to do with Gentiles. Not only were they not to touch Gentiles, but they weren't to listen to anything they said, because Gentiles spoke nothing but evil, because they weren't full of God, because only the people that were Israelites had God's Spirit. And so Jesus is really kind of responding in the way of his culture. He is not hearing this woman and her request. Not only that, not only is he telling her no, but he's calling her a dog, which is a horrible racial slur in the ancient world. And for many in the current world, it still is. And that's what he says. Now, what do you do with that weird statement? Well, some scholars will say, oh, Jesus is just testing her. He's just testing that woman to see if she's faithful enough to not give up. Some people say, oh, the word for dog that Jesus is using is actually little dog or doggy. It's really a word of affection. No, it's not. It's a very mean word. And it's a very mean thing that Jesus says. And if I were that woman begging for Jesus to come help me, and Jesus said what he did, I probably right off the cuff would either say something really mean back to him, spew some sort of racial slur back at him, yell at him, be very emotional and angry, or I would just run away crying because I'd been rejected. And if either of those experiences had happened, my stress level would only be ever elevated, and whatever was making Jesus really upset would remain really elevated. But that's not what happens. And I wonder if the woman who was saying this stepped back for a moment and heard, not only with her ears but with her heart, because she had a very open experience, heard with her heart and said, there must be something going on with Jesus that he would respond in this really cruel way. And we know from reading the Gospel of Mark, which we were doing before we went into John for a little while, that Jesus has had a bit of a trouble on the road, wanting to get away and pray and have some time to himself, because the people just are so crazy about him and wanting to come wherever they are and heal them of their diseases, and he just isn't getting enough sleep, and he's just not getting enough prayer time, and he can be kind of snappy. And he has been snappy. And once again, he's being really snappy. And what she says then, instead of yelling, is using a little bit of clever humor. She says, well, even though he's called her a dog, even the dogs will love to lap up some crumbs under the table. A little bit of self-deprecating, charming humor, not unlike the kind of stuff that Abraham Lincoln was famous for. Once when he was at a debate and someone called him two-faced, he said, how could I be two-faced? If I had another face, I wouldn't have brought this one. But when you say humor like that, it undercuts the tension, and it brings people together, and it helps us carry on as one. And that's what happens with Jesus. He hears that humor, and he is given a positive experience, a lifting experience, as is she. And I'm guessing with a twinkle in his eye, he says, go home, your daughter is healed. Thank you for waking me up and getting me back. Thanks for listening to me. and helping me become the person that I know, the healer that I know that I can be. If it's even important for Jesus, it's important for us all.